No, hell is not in the New Testament. Hell, like most Christian doctrines, to be quite frank, are not found in the Bible in general, or in the New Testament in particular. If by found in the Bible we mean stated in one place in its entirety, without qualification, without figurative language, and without any alternative verses that might suggest some other conclusion. That's just not the relationship between the Bible and theology. Theology is the various bits and pieces of the Bible assembled in ways that tradition finds coherent. And that's what we have with the doctrine of hell. The doctrine of hell is assembled out of three words in particular that get translated as hell, largely because of tradition, and then a variety of passages that speak about punishment of various kinds. So the three words in the New Testament that get translated as hell are Hades, Gehenna, and Tartarus. Hades, in Hellenistic Jewish thought, is a translation of the Hebrew word Sheol. Sheol is just the underworld, death, the grave in a very generic sense. It's where basically everybody goes where they die. It's not conscious. If people have any existence there at all, it's this shade-like, shadowy existence. It's more like sleep than it's like anything else. It has no moral connotation to it. It's eternal in the sense that people, once they're dead, they stay dead, but there's no conscious or torment involved. Gehenna gets translated into hell, especially in Jesus' teachings in the Synoptic Gospels. Gehenna is an actual place, a physical location outside Jerusalem, that through this very polemical tradition in the Hebrew Bible comes to be associated with child sacrifice, and by child sacrifice, by fire in particular. And we also have archaeological evidence of mass like grave sites there as well. So it's associated with death, and it's associated with this sort of shameful, fiery death by idol worshippers in particular. But there's no eternal torment associated with it. It's just death and fiery death in particular. And then we get Tartarus, which I think only appears like 2 or 3 times in the entire New Testament. And Tartarus, in Greek thought, was not really an afterlife, but like a mythic location where primordial beings who can't just be offed directly are imprisoned. And then in Hellenistic Jewish thought, since they don't have like titans or giants or anything like that, it becomes a prison for fallen angels and then eventually for Satan. So it's eternal and it's conscious in the sense that they're awake there. There's no torment involved, though, and people don't go to Tartarus. Tartarus is not a destination in the afterlife for human beings. And then you combine these with passages that don't explicitly mention hell, but like talk about punishment, wheat being cast into a fiery furnace, which is more annihilation than anything else, or people being excluded from a place they'd want to go into, so they're cast into an outer darkness, and it's cold out there, so there's gnashing of teeth, and they're sad, so they're weeping. You put all these things together under the guidance of tradition. You take the death from Hades, and you take the shameful fire from Gehenna, and you take the eternal prison from Tartarus, and you combine this with idea of punishment, and you get, bad people, when they die, are punished by shameful fire in a prison forever, right? That's sort of how you amalgamate all these things together into something that starts to vaguely look like a doctrine of hell. And that's how, frankly, a lot of theology works. It's an attempt to impose some coherent, rational order on the great diversity and multivocality of the Bible. How we do that is not something the text itself gives. The New Testament does not give us instructions on how to assemble this doctrine, which is why there are alternative doctrines that draw upon the same verses. Instead, that's something that tradition does. Tradition gives us sort of the blueprint by which we might try and assemble these things. But tradition can always be challenged, both on the basis of the text and on the basis of philosophy and reason.